Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. Show number 37, 8, 9. Not quite 40.
Not quite. So I was going to put 39, but
39, I think, is the right
on the top
number.
of my script, I always put the date, but I can never remember if it's 37, 38, but not 39.
It was 37 when I counted a couple weeks ago. So this must be 39. It's another glorious Friday.
Oh, what a view, huh?
We got the great view behind us out here at Crystal Beach, and we're a little day behind, but that's okay.
Hey, we got more fans than the Twins do, so we're in good shape.
Well, the Twins. You want to start? Should we start talking about?
Let's really do that.
Let's talk about the Twins.
That's fine.
They scared me a little bit this week. Lots of stuff going on, but maybe the biggest thing was after they played so well on Tuesday, then Wednesday they didn't hit the ball, didn't do things so well, and then Thursday they come back out, hit the heck out of the ball, but can't score any runs initially, and it was like, are they going to lose this ball game?
Yeah.
After Barrios pitched so well, one hitter through 6 innings, it looked like everything was going to be good, and it ended up being just fine. The Twins put some runs together late in the ball.
I mean, a week or so ago, we were talking about this old bearded one. Well, his name is Sergio Romo, and boy, he looks to me to be a character. He's covered with tattoos. He's got a beard right out of the Bible, and he's got a curve right out of hell. Yeah. It really is just a slider. It goes all over the place, and people have a hard time hitting it.
Yeah. Well, there he got himself into a little bit of trouble. He did. He didn't like what Solar was beefing to the umpire about, so he kind of gave it. And then there were some hard feelings Sunday night, and Monday they played again, and they're going to get to play again this weekend. And so, the Twins took 3 out of 4 from KC, 2 out of 3 from the Brewers. Now they'll play in Kansas City starting tonight, Friday. And
they're still a half a game, but they're 4 games away from a nice. I'm with 3 or 4 games with Cleveland, and that is going to be a turntale right there. And we'll see what happens. But they got this. I'm still trying to get through this 60-game schedule and how you regulate your rotation and your pitching staff. And they've actually figured out a way to win games using relief pitchers, and because basically, they've had no choice. But but Barrios is back. Miata is he is
8 straight strikeouts for Kenta Maeda the other night, and then the no-hit bid, and he gets a bleeder, and then a base hit. They take him out, a base hit. And then all of a sudden, it's a tie ball game, 3-3, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have a potential no-hitter. And Twins haven't had one since Francisco Liriano had one back in 2010, and now they're gonna lose the ball game. But it took 12 innings, and they finally won it 4-3. And
Mariana did not win the ball game. That's.
It was too bad.
That's cruel.
And then, of course, Buxton was hitting the ball so well there for a while.
Yes.
Now he's on the IL.
Yeah.
He's got a little shoulder strain, so they put him on the shelf for 10 days. And then Garver pulled a muscle. I can't remember if they said it in his oblique. They put him on the 10-day DL, but they brought this Jeffers up to fill in for him.
So tell me about this Jeffers.
Well, I was reading about him in the Minneapolis paper today. When I had a little break due to injury, I had a chance to
read timeout.
I had a chance to read the paper, and they were talking about that he played somewhere in North Carolina, Charlotte or someplace, and he didn't really get to play a lot the first year. And the coach just basically said he just went and worked his tail off. He got better at hitting, he got better at catching, he got stronger, and all of a sudden they're kind of talking. Well, he's about the same age when Joe Mauer came up. They're talking, kind of a similar number of days in minor league ball, and then they called him up, and they're pretty high on this kid.
Well, he swatted 2 solid singles, and they were saying, Morris was saying, he's got some learning to do, and he's young out there, and Pam, and that one scored a run, and he got a single a little bit later, and even the Brewers were slapping him on the back and giving him the baseball and stuff. They know how important it is, this guy, but Barrios really didn't know who he was going to be pitching to, and I think it worked out just fine.
Yeah, and I think they talked about the fact that Barrios made a couple of changes and it sure seemed to work for him. We know he's got talent.
Yeah.
The big thing is consistency with him right now, and it seems like we're back and forth and we're all around. And anyway, I think the Twins are doing okay. Like I said, every time they lose, we're kind of I get a little nervous, but geez Louise, you can't really fault them where they're at. They had that one bad stretch of 4 games that we talked about last week, and Rich Hill didn't look great.
Well, nobody started out so well, but you have to remember, Milwaukee's got some pretty big bats, and they get mowing. They can whap as many as the Twins, and so Hill just kind of got into the swing of things there. But Hill's not there. Homer Bailey's not there. Right now, they're still working with a patched up pitching staff. On the other hand, the ones that are there seem to be functioning quite well. Seem
to be doing very well.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I do want to mention the San Diego Padres, if I might.
Sure.
I don't know if you heard about what happened earlier this week in Texas. It's 10-3. We're in the top of the 8th inning, so that's a 7-run lead.
You're talking about the homer all
I'm talking about Fernando Tatis's home run. Matter of fact, grand slam home run, because he hit a grand slam with a 7-run lead on a 3-0 pitch. And apparently that's one of the unwritten rules of baseball, is when you're ahead by that many runs and it's a 3-0 count, you don't swing the bat. Well, I'm sorry. I've been around for 50 years, and I'm not saying I'm a baseball guru, but I never knew that was one of the unwritten rules, that you don't swing at a 3-0 pitch. I'm like, hey, if you get to a 3-0 pitch, you deserve to have the ball swatted around on you.
Well, I have down here in my notes Fernando Tatis Jr., the grand slam, because I knew I was going to get some response from you, and that's fine. You hang up a 3-0. Whatever, and some guy swats it for a grand slam. I mean, you're the one that loaded up the bases.
That's the thing. And so there was one of our good friends, Nick Schenecker. He posted out there's unwritten rules, and that was one of them that you shouldn't break. And I'm like, hey, I'm all for. In football, you get up by 30 points in the 4th quarter, there's a time limit. I mean, the chances of you coming back are slim. Okay, same thing in basketball. There's a time limit on it. Most sports have a time limit. Baseball, there's an out limit, and those outs. So to me, a 7-run lead in the 8th inning, that's not safe. So for Fernando, get up there and
not in that league, no.
Start swatting the ball, or you just keep swinging. And I know the 2 managers thought it was bad, and they kind of made him apologize, I think, told him to apologize, that he didn't know the rule and he's young and whatever else. I mean, we're talking about a guy that might be an MVP candidate.
You bet he's going to it, and he's going to remember this, but I think what he really should remember is now he has a safe lead.
Yeah. And so
11-3. Now he's got a safe lead. And I don't know. I'm pulling for the kid. Yeah. I think that's just fine.
But then the Padres did something that no team has never done before. I think they did this last night. They did something no team has ever done. He hit that grand slam on Monday. They hit a grand slam on Tuesday. They hit a grand slam on Wednesday. And they hit a grand slam on Thursday. First team ever that has hit a grand slam in 4 consecutive games.
Wow.
So, I'm a math guy. What are the chances of you loading the bases 4 days in a row and then hitting a home run on those 4 chances or 4 opportunities? You actually hit a home run and get a grand slam. To me, it's got to be astronomical. I mean, if it's never been done before, I mean, think about what that means.
Well, and every time I see it in Yahoo, so it has to be true. But they talk about the live baseball, the dead ball, and all the rest of that stuff. And some pitchers swear by it, and other pitchers, they just throw the ball. And so, but there've been a lot of grand slams, and I don't know. I look at the Twins. There's a lot of people on base that stay on base. That's not good.
But then they're saying that the batting average is so low that it's starting to pick up, but it's still so low. Does that mean that the pitchers aren't throwing strikes enough?
No,
and to me, I think that's part of the piece of the puzzle.
I see the way those balls are coming in. I'd sure hate to try to have to hit them.
Yeah, those guys can do some nasty stuff with it.
They really can.
So
it's it's amazing. Hit yourself in the head trying to swing at one of those things. It's really quite a. I mean, there's a lot of them. Every one of them has something that they can do special.
Yeah, they wouldn't be at that level if they
wouldn't
couldn't.
be at that level if they couldn't.
Where do you want to move to next? I see college sports.
College sports is big time these days. I don't know if you want to go right to there, but we can.
Yeah, wherever you want to go with it.
I can't. We've both been lifelong Gopher fans. This year was really going to be a fantastic year. The offensive line was coming together. The defensive side was young but coming up. Fleck has the charisma. Everything was working out really well. Who knows? We could have gone to the Rose Bowl. And if you take a look at last year, the Gopher volleyball team, they were in the Final Four.
Yep. And
Hugh McClutchan, he had a very fine team, and he's got a really good one coming back as well. And Ricky Pitino, I mean, all these guys, they have, what they have right now is they're working solely on hope.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're sure that this is going to happen. They hope. There was an article in the Minneapolis paper today. I didn't even write it down. Parents are so upset that their kid is not going to get a chance to play football.
They were protesting at the Big Ten headquarters in Chicago today.
They were, yeah.
Can I say I get that, but can I also say that these kids aren't in high school anymore? You're dealing with something a lot bigger than high school. I guess I don't see parents having as much say as they do in a high school situation. I guess I'm a little stunned by the whole parent thing getting involved. I understand they're still your kid, they're still pretty young, but I don't know. I understand what Justin Fields is saying. I understand. Hey, I get it, Justin. You want to play football. I want to coach. I still want to play football. I'm 50 years old. I still want to play football. But I know that I can't go and play football. I'd be dead for about 4 days. I wouldn't even be able to get out of bed. And I think all your buddies want to play football. I get it. All the volleyball players, they want to play volleyball because that's what they've been dying to do. I get it. But isn't the flip side of the coin? Isn't that worse?
Justin Field, Trevor Lawrence, they have a vested interest in this.
They're still going to. Trevor Lawrence is still going to be the #1 draft pick, whether he plays this fall or not.
Yes.
So
yes.
As far as I can tell, the only thing that he has to gain is nothing. He has nothing to gain. There's no gain for Trevor Lawrence. He should sit out the season and just say, look, I know you want to play football. I get it. But you're going to be the #1 draft pick and you're going to sign for $80 jillion. Why? I understand the competitiveness. You want to play football, but
I'll tell you, and a lot of this, I hate to use the word bickering because it's important, but Kevin Warren, Big Ten commissioner, he's not having any of this. And, we will not revisit the issue. And, so it's how do you argue with that decision?
Well, somebody said they never voted.
No,
and I'm just like, really? They never said, Minnesota, how do you feel? Or Nebraska, how do you feel? They never asked that question. I got a hard time believing them. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just all kind of looked at each other on the Zoom meeting and said, yeah, we shouldn't play. Okay, let's not play. All right. Nobody must have said something the opposite way. I'm just...
Well, and that was kind of what it come down to, was kind of the herky-jerky method that they presented this. First off, they were given a modified football schedule with no non-conference games. 4 days later, whoop, that's it. And so, and although it probably was the right decision, there's a lot of people, there's a herky-jerky type thing, and so the full weight of this comes down on Commissioner Warren. And
the fact that the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12 didn't do the same thing, and matter of fact have said, we're going to give this a go, has only made it worse for the Big 10 and the Pac-12, I believe. I mean, rightfully so, I guess. But I guess I still don't know if I can see the positive of trying to do this. Everybody's saying, well, we've got a few cases here and there. how many? What's the number of cases you need before you shut it down? They're talking about this player, and I don't remember what his name was. I just flipped the TV on quick this morning, and they were talking about this kid who has the heart condition now. He had had COVID. He's a quarterback for some college, and now he's got a heart condition. Well, was the heart condition there? I have no idea. But wouldn't that as an athlete, even just as a normal person who's not a Division I athlete, wouldn't you kind of go, geez, do I need to take any chances and get that? I don't know. I think in some people's minds it's what happens. You know,
and the other thing, you got to take a look at the student athletes are picking up the pace here, and my favorite Wildcatter, Seth Green, is behind a lot of the Big Ten stuff, and they're talking about they want to start listed demands. They want to start a college football players association. And Seth Green says we want to make sure all athletes are more organized and on the same page, and all voices are heard from different perspectives. They tried to do that at Northwestern, but what happened was Northwestern was a private school, and they would not get recognition from the National Labor Relations Board, which oversees private institutions. The rest of these schools, they're not private. Okay, and so the next article that I come to is a guy named Lee Schaefer, who's a business correspondent for Minneapolis, and he says this is a foundation once wrote a report, the harm football inflicts on universities. It touched on rescheduling games just to make more money, disregard player safety, and an almost comical, sleazy practice of recruiting high school players. The profits have been gained because colleges have permitted the youth entrusted to their care to be openly exploited. This report came out in 1929. And you have to ask, what really has changed? Not much. And so it's and it's not just the star athletes, it's the star coaches. The coach, Scott Frost, University of Nebraska, makes 47 times more than Nebraska's governor.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow.
And Dabo down in Clemson, he's in the $9 million range. They figure that he probably makes more than any other college football. Okay,
That's
and so these are in there, and then there's just one other thing that comes into being, the law. Okay, and it's just like besides health concerns, liability is the big issue. Sports attorney Tom Marr says whatever conference decides to play football this fall will be taking a ridiculously high risk they will soon regret. I know and have talked to some of the best plaintiffs lawyers in the country, and they're praying that the SEC, Big 12, ACC are greedy enough to open their season schedule. As legal equivalent, these coalitions are Death Stars. Wow. So there are people waiting for this whole thing to happen, but like I say, it seems reasonable somewhere along the line. They're coming in, they're developing these players, and the day before they get $1 million contract, they're really getting nothing. And so, like it said, it seems reasonable to talk about restoring amateur ideal in football when it jumped the tracks maybe a century ago. And since then, you have to take a look at what they're doing. And they say, of course, we're offering tuition. Yeah, they are, but that's not to say that you can come to my school and we'll pay the thing. That might be actually pretty cheap labor for them, considering some of the money that some of these kids make. So, things are not going to be the same for college. I'll be the first to say it. On September 12th, Florida will be playing somebody, and I'm going to be watching it on TV because that's the kind of guy I am.
That's kind of things we do.
Yeah, but things look pretty bad right now.
Yeah, I don't. Obviously, there's what, 3 weeks until those first games. Obviously, lots of things could change. Like I said, the SEC seems to be the one driving this, if I can say it that way, and they pretty much drive college football. Some of these the NCAA came out today and said, all fall athletes will get another year of eligibility. Well, that's great. That's understandable. I think that is their way of saying, look, we understand there's issues here. You're going to maybe lose your senior year of football, your senior year as a volleyball player. The football players are probably the biggest ones, or the juniors for football, because they got this potential big draft thing at the end. Volleyball players, not quite so much.
No.
Some of these other sports, not so much. For them to get granted an extra year of eligibility might appease some of them, and we'll see what happens. There's no right answer. I'm going to say that. There's no right answer.
No, to sit down and figure all those Big Ten commissioners are sitting down, all these wise men trying to come up with a solution that really probably isn't there. It's got to be, and a lot of these guys are old athletes. They certainly, I mean, $75, $76, $77 million will be missed by lack of Gopher football.
It's a pretty scary number.
It is. Those are real scary numbers.
What would you like? You want to talk about the Vikes?
Let's talk about the Vikes.
What do you want to talk about? Where do you want to start?
Well, apparently they don't have enough money to buy Delvin Cook.
They said something in the article, George, and I'll say this. The Vikings have said their offer has essentially stayed the same from whatever that offer is, but it said in the article in the Star Tribune, the Vikings have pretty much stayed with their offer. They haven't changed it. So my question is, how is anything ever, where's the compromise? Where are they trying to wait Cook out? Well, I think Cook finally said this week, fine, whatever. I'm going to go play football. You guys we'll put these contracts on hold, and then when I go out and kick butt this year, and I think this is the attitude he's taking, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. When I go out and kick butt this year, if I get a chance to play, of course, I'm going to go out and I'm going to rush for X number of yards, 1,500 yards, let's say, and then when you want to negotiate next year, that number that you were hoping to get me at 13 million is going to be like 17 or 18 million, and you're going to have to pay the freight. That's what I think he's. That's what I think he's making.
So that's the tag situation they put on him, and just they'll continue through. I'm wondering. A lot of football players have been getting pretty handsome contracts these days.
Yeah.
And so he's going to take a look at that, and he is going to say, either I am one of the best running backs in the league, or I'm not, and he is. They're going to somewhere along the line, and I hope you're right. Pay me now or pay me later.
Yeah.
But he is just really a fine running back, and it would be foolish for them to lose him.
Yeah, and they've got Madison there to kind of fill the void if he would get hurt. And I think they're trying. Maybe the Vikings are looking at it saying, "Okay, Delvin Cook, maybe we aren't going to sign you at the end." I think that would be a disaster, but we know that he's a little injury prone, and so Madison, maybe we'll get by with him. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking, but it would just seem to have been a whole lot easier if they had given him the money. But then at the same time, I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about this. They're talking about the salary cap with the money that may or may not be there, may not be changing. Every year the salary cap goes up. Well, what if it doesn't go up? And all of a sudden you gave this big contract. Hey, Delvin, we'd like you to wait till the season's over, and then we'll make it right. I don't know.
The other thing is Sid Hartman says they have some defensive holes to fill, but he thinks that they're filling them nicely, and they might have a very good defense. When you've got Barr and Kendricks in the linebacker, and they always seem to have a third one coming in to
and I
fill the hole. They very might have a good defense.
I think they are going to have a good defense. Yes, they lost Griffin. They lost the Pierce that they signed from Baltimore and all this other stuff. They seem to be pretty happy with the way their defense is. I think the team is happy. Let's go play football, and let's find out again, virus willing. And I think that's another topic for another show maybe. Will the pro football teams be able to do what like the baseball teams are doing? Are they going to run into the same issue? Because it certainly has worked for hockey and basketball. The bubble.
Yeah.
The bubble has worked. I mean, as far as keeping the virus down and whatever else. And you got the pictures from baseball, Plesac and was it Clevenger? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Who went out to a party after the baseball game and then lied about it and then I'm just like, guys.
You're pros making a lot of money. You can't do this.
What are you doing? I just, and then they made it seem like they had gotten treated badly for lying and going out when you weren't supposed to do it. And then they were upset that they got sent back to Cleveland in a car. And I'm like, well, they could have made you cut your butt and sent you home and said, go find another team to go play for and see how you like that.
My son would have made him walk.
Yeah, your son would have made him walk. You better believe they would.
So something happened yesterday that hasn't happened in your lifetime. Timberwolves got #1 draft.
Well, they had the number 1 when they got Karl Anthony Towns 5 years ago.
Okay,
but yes, they
second time.
This is the second time.
So
you know what the bad part about it is, George?
Yeah.
There's no true #1.
No, there really isn't.
There isn't a Zion Williamson sitting out there that, okay, you got the #1 draft pick, you are drafting X player. They don't have that. And if they go out and draft this Bell kid with his dad and everything else,
see,
then you're gonna. If I could turn this chair around, that's what the Timberwolves are gonna get from me because they cannot draft that kid. I don't care how good he is. If they draft that kid, I'm done. We won't ever talk Timberwolves ever again. I'm done till he leaves the team. He is like J.R. Ryder and Sprewell and all these. I don't just you draft him. He's not worth the hassle.
No, he'll destroy your team.
He'll destroy your team.
And just think about, you want Dad down there in that locker room?
Nope.
So,
nope.
Yeah,
don't draft him, please.
No.
I'm begging. Just don't do it. Personally, this is what I think. I think they should trade and bring a player in.
I think that's very well.
And trade down and get down to 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Hell, even 7. What the heck? Why not? And see what happens and go from there. So,
yeah. Good idea. I have to agree with you there.
Want to move on to the Lynx as long as we're in the basketball mode?
They have been shooting the eyes out of the buckets. I watched them the other night, and they couldn't miss.
They didn't. Things didn't go so well in the first half, but once again, they've shown that in the fourth quarter, for whatever reason, they can make a pretty big comeback. They outscored Dallas 45-23 over the last 14 minutes. I'm like, that's an insane number.
Yeah.
Against a team who had just beaten Phoenix the couple days earlier, and they did it with no severe fouls.
No.
Out with the calf. Likely, she could be out for an extended period of time. Cheryl Reeves is a magician. That's all I can say. She's unbelievable. I don't know how she gets that team to perform. Obviously, Crystal Dangerfield is a very nice addition out of Surprise, Connecticut, who always seem to have very, very good players. And they're sitting at 8-3.
I'm telling you, women's basketball has improved so much over the course of the last 25 years. These women are big, they're fast, really fast, they're strong, they know how to play the game, they go to the basket well, they pass well, probably pass better than the men do as a team.
And they play again tonight, and for the life of me, I didn't write it down because I thought we were going to be doing this show yesterday.
I know.
But anyway, they play again, and halfway through the season, 8-3. To me, they're gonna a lot of good things going on there. So go Lynx.
Go Lynx.
Where do you want to go next?
Alaska Anchorage pulled the plug.
Yeah, on hockey.
That was disappointing. I'm sure that there's going to be schools at WCHA that are going to be.
Well, and the scary part is there's only 2 teams left. And
I know.
So what are they going to do? And they're talking about contingency plans and what they're going to do. And it's not a good situation for the WCHA. I don't see how they survive.
I don't either.
I don't see how Fairbanks sticks in there because who's going to pick up Alaska Fairbanks? They said they're in it for the long haul. You don't see the NCHC. The CCHA doesn't want to bring them back in because that's part of the reason why these teams left the WCHA, because they didn't want to have to go to Alaska. I don't know. They're in a tough, and it's tough to be an independent because who's going to play you in the middle of the season? And it's a tough road.
It is.
So, but it seems unfortunate that Alaska Anchorage would drop their hockey program. I mean, not that Alaska is a hockey hotbed, but it just seems like they kind of should go hand in hand.
Well, but they've always come down. I've watched them play a couple of times, and they've always come down and
got nice teams.
They do. And over the years, way back in the 60s, Peter Hagen, Johnny Matthews, and a bunch of guys from International Falls went up there and played real well with those guys. And so, and that was just about the time that they started.
Sure.
So that was I was disappointed to see that. Very disappointed.
I see you got Damian Lillard written down there.
Well, I watched him the other night, and I just thought, no wonder they think he's so good. He's really good.
He's really good.
And so he nailed 34 points and beat up the Lakers pretty well. And I thought, Portland Trailblazers are not that good a basketball team, at least on paper. They shouldn't be able to do this. And then, so I turned it back on last night, and the
Lakers were putting the smackdown on.
They were putting the smackdown on, and it just goes to show, even in the NBA, defense seems to rule the roost. He wound up getting 18 points, but you can concede that to him all along. Yeah. And Anthony Davis, I mean, LeBron James got 13 assists. You know that he's kicking a lot of those back out. He got 10 points, 5-6 rebounds, all these assists. He's captaining that team. He's a leader on that team, and he's playing that way.
He's getting older.
He's getting older.
I think he is also trying to cruise control this until it really gets important. And I think after they lost to Portland in the game one, everybody said, "Boys, we better crank it up a notch, or we might be going home." I know I had the TV on this morning, as I mentioned, and they were talking about the Clippers, and the Clippers, of course, are 1-1 with Dallas, and the Clippers the number 2 seed, and they were talking about Dallas is obviously not a bad team with Doncic and everything else that's going on there. Yeah, he's scored the most points in the first 2 playoff games ever since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Not too shabby, last 50 years. He had over 70 points, I think. And so it ought to be exciting to see what happens with, and like I said, the NBA, I saw an article in the paper, they're talking about the ratings, the viewership for the NBA is going in the tank. People aren't watching it anymore. And one of the reasons they were saying is because they always make these super teams. Well, when only 2 or 3 teams have a chance to win the championship,
You're in and you're out.
Who wants to watch that? And some people say, well, what about the New England Patriots? They've won how many times? I agree, but they seem to always pull it out. But I agree, when there's 25 teams that are just fodder for the other 5 teams wherever they decide this next super team is going to go, that doesn't work. And people I think have had it. I think that's why I don't watch the NBA anymore, because it's like, well, what's the sense? I could sit there and be a Timberwolves fan, but we know at the end of the day, the scary part about this, they're talking that they're going to get the number 1 draft pick, and they've got Cat and all the rest of the stuff, and they don't know if they can get out of the top, they don't know if they can crack the top 10 of the West, even with all these great players. And it's just like the West is so stacked right now. I don't know. It's tough to. It's tough to be a fan of when things are going like that.
I agree, but I'm so basketball hungry that I'll take it. And also, they play a tight schedule as well. And the schedule that these guys are playing has to be exhausting. And I'm taking a look, and I'm thinking, out in Boston, they're pretty proud of these Celtics. Yeah. And Toronto, they've been kind of dominating for a long time.
Improved to 3-0 today in their series with Brooklyn, and
the Mavs down in Texas, they're doing really well, and it goes on and on. Everybody's been waiting for the Clippers to do something for 1,000 years. Well, they're doing it. Huh? And of course you have the Lakers. So there's some really good teams there, and I feel bad for the rest of them right now that are watching. But right now, there's some awfully good basketball being played, so I'm going to stick to it for a while.
ESPN and TNT and the NBA have to be upset that Zion Williamson and the Pelicans didn't make it in. That's one of their cash cows, and
they got plenty of time to take him.
He's young.
And Bol will be back too.
Bol will be back. Yeah, the basketball, not a lot of craziness other than maybe Miami leading Indiana 2-0 after the first two games, but that can change in a big hurry. Hockey got done with most of their first rounds.
Yeah.
Vegas, way easy over Chicago. Colorado, easy over Arizona. Dallas, 4-2 over Calgary. The Islanders, number 6 seed, took down Washington, and Ovechkin 4-1, which just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
Boston took out Carolina 4-1, and Tampa Bay, after they lost to the 5 overtimer that we talked about last week, they lost that game. They won the next 4 over Columbus, and so they're into the next round. Philly will probably finish off Montreal tonight, and then Vancouver could be taking down St. Louis, the Stanley Cup champs from last year. They could be going home. I don't know what it is with Vancouver. If they beat St. Louis, I won't feel so bad that the Wild lost to them.
No, hey, talk about competitive basketball. Look at some of those competitive hockey teams. I mean, it was just how long ago was it that Las Vegas won the Stanley Cup? On a team that they strapped together
from picks, and then of course we get the Kraken in there next year. And boy, everything will be great.
I'm going to get a Kraken hat if it's the last thing I do.
A couple other things that I have.
Yeah.
CFL shut their season down, so I put my Bombers hat on.
Sorry about that, Tim.
They officially shut down the 2020 season. They were getting down into the last third of their regular season, and they basically said it would have cost more money to try to start a season now than just to keep it shut down, which is what a lot of people are saying about the sports. So they'll come back in 2021. The Loons, they've got their first home game tonight at Alliance Field since the virus broke out, with no fans, which is going to be different. They play KC.
Didn't they lose a goalie to
They lost their goalie to a shoulder injury for the season, but then they signed some stud that they've been trying to get, not goaltender, and so they're pretty proud of that. I don't think he'll be in the lineup tonight, but yeah, go Loons. I can't wait. Hopefully I'll get a chance to watch a little bit of it tonight, along with the Lynx and the Twins and everything else. And then Bob Barr. Did you see anything about Bob Barr this week?
Bob Barr, our local runner.
Yeah, our local Bob
One of my
Barr.
Wrestlers.
He went to Colorado and he ran in the Pikes Peak Marathon.
All right.
Got 144th out of about 800 runners. Not too shabby.
In his age group.
No, this is 144 out of 800 people that ran the race.
Ooh, good.
Took them just over 6 hours. They started the race at 6,300 feet of elevation and finished at 14,000 feet. A lot of it very vertical, obviously. So you know why the marathon, instead of it taking maybe 3 hours, why it took 6 hours. And so congratulations to Bob. He does. Well, I'll say it. He does these crazy things, these crazy running events, the ultra marathons and that kind of stuff. And it seems to drive him. He seems to be very good at it. But man,
when he wrestled, we called him the rubber band man, because you'd have a really good hold on him and you have really something and you got nothing. And he'd just kind of squeeze out of it and bend around of it. Tight cradle, everything's tight. No, I'm sorry, you don't. He'd squeeze out of it, and he'd give you absolutely. You wouldn't know this going in. Where's his mind at once he got on the mat? Everything he had came out. And so for him to do this, and he took this running on relatively later in life. And before he was just, but he lost a lot of weight and got back to athletic training. And pretty proud of Bobby Barr. Yeah,
pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And last thing that I had to talk about: will the Kansas City Royals pitch to Cruz?
Well,
will they pitch to Cruz this weekend?
Well, he's had their number for a couple of years now, and I know he loves going to Kansas City. Was Kansas City coming here?
We're going to Kansas City.
Going to Kansas City. Yeah, he does well down there. But I'll tell you what: if I were a pitcher in any kind of a game situation, and that man's coming up to bat, you have to be thinking, I'm in trouble, because he is really amazing. He's my favorite Twin. But of course, you won't believe this, but I thought Jim Toomey was a lot of fun too.
Yeah, those old guys who can still knock the snot out of the baseball.
Well, he's going in for doubles, and
Yeah, he struck out the other night twice, I think, in the same game, actually, and I was kind of like, what's going on? And once early in the game and once late in the game, obviously different pitchers, and obviously baseball players strike out, but he just seems to make such solid contact.
All the time.
It just doesn't seem that it's possible.
No, I anytime you get a chance, I've often wondered, why are they keeping Max Kepler
at number one
hitter, and yesterday he proved me wrong again.
Yeah.
Every time they do that, I just think, you want to have this little guy.
You should complain about him more often so he keeps doing
whatever it is. But I do have one more thing.
Yeah.
Indianapolis 500 on Sunday.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah. So Indianapolis will be down there, and I've been to Indianapolis a couple of different times. The last one was marvelous, but I'm pulling for the boys. I hope they have a good time. It's really too bad that they're not going to have any fans, but that's a hell of a race.
It is. It'll be. I hopefully maybe get a chance to partake, watch a little bit of it.
I like to crank it up in my 4 speakers. It's almost like I'm in the middle.
Like you're there.
And gentlemen, start your engines. It's just the dogs leave the room. So it gets to be a little bit. But anyway, I also wrote down in my notes about Sergio Romo. I think that's a great name for a great relief pitcher, and I love his tattoos.
It'll be. I hope he can keep doing what he's doing.
I hope he can too.
So, you got a big finale this week? Or?
No, that was
you brought the book with though.
Oh, I did, and this is just to kind of show you that we pay for our research here. and Tom Swift, the other book that he wrote was 1918, and he was talking about the flu pandemic, the war. And, of course, around here, 1918 was nothing but incredible forest fires.
Yeah.
And so, we talk about, generations that really have to sacrifice. And in 1918, they had to sacrifice. In fact, I've seen some pictures, and everybody's walking around with masks on. Imagine that.
Imagine that. Scary enough.
Yes. Anyway, Chief Bender's Burden, Tom Swift. This is a very expensive book, about $8, and so. Put this one on your coffee table, and when your kids come by, tell them that's a Minnesotan superstar.
High school teams got their practices underway.
They do.
Cross-country teams and the swimming teams got underway this week.
You've got the football starting the 14th?
Football practice will start the 14th, Monday through Thursday. Coaches got together, and you can start putting this on your calendar. We're gonna practice at the stadium on Thursday nights.
All right.
Kind of end the week with a little mini scrimmage. I mean, the first week we really can't because they're just getting back into pads, but we're going to go to the stadium, and then the final, when we get done with the 3 weeks, we'll kind of have maybe, like I said, a kind of a full out scrimmage type game where hopefully we got enough healthy bodies, and because some of these kids have talked about going out for cross country, and some of them may not come out and practice, so we'll have to see what transpires, but and then the spring seasons, they don't get to start their practices till like October 5th. So we'll see what those teams do, the baseballs and the softballs, and what they can get done, because they can practice for an additional 3 weeks after that. So like I said, do the best you can. A lot of the coaches on Twitter especially have been talking about to persevere, to overcome, battle through, whatever comes your way, do this, and
endure,
and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And I kind of got one of those talks last night when we were working on my daughter's house, and had one of the contractors in town stop by, and I was complaining about the issues, and he's just like, just keep playing the problem. Just play the problem. Just play the problem. Fix the next problem, and eventually it'll come out right. Just do things right, and everything will be fine. And I'm kind of like, well, geez, that sounds like what you say to your football or volleyball team after you lose. I'll just work the problem. Come back, and we're going to get better tomorrow, and we'll try to do what we can do. So, thanks, Jed.
That's all right. So just maybe we should get you a hard hat or something when you go to work.
Jeez Louise,
anyway,
it's been a tough week for if you haven't looked at my fingers yet. Power tools, they're dangerous. Make sure you respect them, and don't take them lightly. That's what Tim had to learn the hard way today. So,
yeah, that's why Sue never lets me at Menards.
Anything else?
I don't think so. Have really good sports this weekend. There's things to watch, and also it's going to be a beautiful weekend. So
Try to get there and enjoy it.
you got to get a little fresh air.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.